The further you run, the more energy you'll require. Now, your muscles can only store a certain amount of glycogen, and once that's depleted, well, your running performance will start to suffer. Unless, that is, you fuel as you go. Okay, let's be sensible a moment. There are so many fueling options available and there's no one size fits all. So I'm going to do my bit here and try every single one of them for you guys. No, I'm joking. I am going to cover though all of the pros and the cons for what's available. But first, let's rewind. Why do we need fuel when running and when? You need to have readily available carbohydrate in order to function and importantly in order to run. You're going to have a certain amount floating around in your bloodstream in the form of glucose, and then your liver and your muscles are going to be storing a certain amount of glycogen. But this is limited, and you'll start to notice that once you've been running for say 90 minutes up to 2 hours or longer, that you'll feel that you're lacking in energy. Now, obviously, I know some people are going to burn energy more quickly or slowly than others. Some of us will be able to store a little bit more than others. And a few of you might already be adapted to be able to utilize those fat stores you have. But for the sake of this video, we're going to say that you actually need to start topping up those carbohydrate levels once you're running of 90 minutes or longer. The key is to top up these carbohydrate levels before they become depleted. So say you're even doing just a 2-hour run, you want to consider taking on something as early as 45 minutes or maybe even as early as 30 minutes. So you can take on fuel gradually, which will reduce the chance of your stomach having any issues with that. Obviously, if you're doing a much longer run, then you need to look at fueling over a longer period of time and taking on more fuel, ideally trying to get around 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour. But that is really the upper end. A 2-hour steady run, then even just taking on 30 grams is going to be enough to give you a certain amount of benefit. But it is worth bearing in mind that when you start to push the levels of more than 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour, you could be risking having stomach issues because your body will struggle to digest much more than that. When it comes to topping up your carbohydrate levels, you are spoiled for choice. Now, maybe you're totally happy with your nutrition plan or you're looking at changing things up a little bit, but it's worth being aware that something you really enjoy eating whilst you're sat on the sofa can suddenly be far less appealing when you're out for a run, and vice versa. So I'm going to cover all of the options and talk through the pros and the cons of each food choice. The banana. This is around 23 grams of carbohydrate. Now the pros, well, obviously it's cheap, it comes in its own wrapper that's biodegradable, it's healthy and natural, and you can find it in most shops. The cons, well, it's got a distinct flavour, it's quite large to carry in your pocket, and it can get squished, plus you've got to chew it. Bars. Well, here you can't really put a number on the nutritional value because they all vary massively. Talking of which, though, you want to look for a sports nutrition bar that is specific to be taken on during, and there's plenty out there, which leads me on to the pros. There are lots. You've got a huge selection out there, so you can choose a flavour that you like and a consistency that you like. As it's a whole food, it's usually kinder on your stomach and it's something more palatable, so you're likely to enjoy eating it, and hopefully it will mean you'll be able to take it on more easily during your run. They're easy to transport. If you don't eat it, you can bring it home and use it another day, and equally you can have part of the bar, wrap it back up, stick it in your pocket. When it comes to the cons, well, they can be quite expensive. They can be a little bit hard to swallow because you are eating something whole, and then to kind of contradict the fact that they're kinder on your stomach, with that they do take a little bit longer to digest, so it can take longer for that carbohydrate and that energy to actually get into your bloodstream. Homemade fuel. Now here, the nutritional value is going to be very hard to work out. If you really want to, you could probably do the maths, but I would say just be aware of any high fat content if you're putting in lots of nuts or you're cooking with quite a lot of butter. When it comes to the pros, well, the first one is they're delicious. I mean, I couldn't even wait whilst we're filming on this, but as a result, that means you're probably going to take it on quite well whilst you're running. You've also can make it to a flavour that you like. You know exactly what you're putting in your body as well. When it comes to the cons, well, they can be a little bit messy if it's something that's homemade. You're not going to know exactly if you're getting the right nutrition. And if you are, say, adding in too much dried fruit, then that could give you a little bit too much fibre. And as with any whole food, well, it's going to take a little bit longer to be able to eat and digest and actually get that glucose into your blood. Gels. The nutritional value can vary slightly, but they're all around 23 grams of carbohydrate per packet. It's just worth checking. When it comes to the pros, there are a huge amount for these because they are designed pretty much for using on a long run. They're really easy to carry, they're easy to open and consume whilst you're going. You've got a huge array of flavors to choose from. You can easily monitor how much you're taking on board. They're quite easy to swallow, and you've got a lot of choice, and you can find them in most supermarkets or chemists. When it comes to the cons, well, they can be fairly expensive. They can be quite sickly. Maybe you don't enjoy the taste or the texture of them. And as a result, they can sometimes give you stomach issues if you're not used to using them or you're not taking on enough water alongside. But it is worth noting, if you're doing a really long run and you don't want to have loads of packets and loads of stickiness everywhere, you can actually decant them into a bottle beforehand, dilute them slightly with water, and then take your drink on that way. But you do need to keep a track of how much you've consumed. Energy blocks. These are around 8 grams of carbohydrate per block. And I say they sit somewhere on that spectrum between a gel and solid food. When it comes to the pros, they're really convenient because you can have a small amount at once and you can measure how much carbohydrate you're taking on as a result. They're really easy to transport because you can have one, put the packet back in your pocket and use them again next time. You've got a huge array of flavors, and you can get some that have actually got added salt content to them if you are a high sweater. When it comes to the cons, well, they're expensive because they are a sport-specific product, and they sometimes can get stuck a bit in your teeth. And if you're trying to run really hard, you can find it quite hard to breathe whilst you're trying to swallow them. Sweets. When it comes to the nutritional value, I would say check the packet, but they are high in carbohydrates and in the simple sugar form. So they're going to be really easy to digest. I'm already leading on to the pros here. There's quite a lot for sweets. They're really cheap. There's a huge choice out there, so you'll find something that you like, and as a result, you'll want to eat them, and you can have as many or as little as you want. That comes onto the cons. Maybe you're going to eat them all before you go out running, like me, but actually, are there any cons? I guess they're not sport specific, so you might not be getting some of the other salts and the added things that certain nutritional products can give you. A carbohydrate drink. Now, always check the label for the nutritional value, but I will just point out that if it is in a powder form, that you make sure you dilute it with the correct amount of water, which is essential not only for your stomach, but also that you're getting the right nutrition and hydration mix in. When it comes to the pros, well, they are going to give you that hydration as well as the energy. As a result, they are super easy to swallow and consume. Cons, well, they can be a little bit more in volume than you maybe want. You might not need that much hydration, but if you need the energy, you're going to have to take all of that on board, and as a result, it can be slightly heavier to carry with you. Fizzy and sugary drinks. Well, this can, for example, is 23 grams of carbohydrate, and they're all going to be fairly similar. They're high in sugar. You might have done some races where they're using flat Coke because it is high in sugar and it gives you that caffeine boost as well, which is another option. When it comes to the pros, well, they're to some people's taste, these drinks. They are really easy to digest, and you're going to still get that sugar content, and they're cheap, and you can find them if you're out on a run and you suddenly hit a bit of a wall. You can find a fizzy drink in pretty much any garage or supermarket. When it comes to the cons, well, you need to be very careful of the gas content. If you are having it when it's still fizzy, you're just going to be filling your stomach with gas, and that could give you issues that way. Plus, they can be quite difficult to carry. All that sugar, I'm buzzing, so I should probably go for a long run myself. But before I do, I just want to reiterate a couple of things. We're talking here about topping up your carbohydrate levels. So you need to make sure that you're starting with a fuel tank that's already full, making sure you have a decent meal with plenty of carbs 3 to 4 hours before your long run. And if you want a little more of a top up, having something like a piece of toast or some sort of simple carbohydrate 30 to 40 minutes before. And then there's the matter of hydration, which is really important. It is a video for another day, but make sure if you're running in hot conditions or you're running for more than an hour or so, that you're taking fluids with you and you're taking them on board, because being dehydrated can negatively affect your performance, but it can also have a double whammy effect by reducing your body's ability to absorb that nutrition you're taking on. There's a lot to think about, but the great news is there's so much for you to go and choose and experiment with, and you can just go and enjoy eating sugar guilt-free out on your run. So let me know what your favourite fuel is for your long runs. You can share that with all of us in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed it, give us a like, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet done so.